Hey guys, welcome back on the channel. Good day to bank on Bitcoin. So let's do it. It's always a good day to bank on Bitcoin, to be honest. And right now the price is at 88K. So that reminded me I have a position which is open and out of range on base chain, and it's on Uniswap. So I came here on DEX Screener to see the top performing pools right now. They are sorted by volume, and this is a weekend. The top 5 is just CBBTC paired with something, USDC or Ethereum. So these are currently the top traded pools on the base chain. And in my opinion, that's a no-brainer. If you want to earn fees with a solid asset, you can't go wrong by banking on Bitcoin in Liquidity Pools. So let me show you. This is a position on Uniswap that I opened. It was probably a month ago. I have to check it on Crystal. Crystal gives all the data, but currently it's out of range and its worth dropped below $20. I deposited, I believe it was $20 worth of liquidity. It went out of range on the downside. This is what happens, and most people do the mistake. They're chasing yield and they start locking in permanent loss because they deposit all the liquidity in one go. I'm going to show you how I can rebalance this. I will lock in permanent loss, yeah, but I'm playing the long game. So eventually at some point in time I will break even and I will make up for the loss. Even though that I will deposit a little bit more right now, I'm looking to build my liquidity pool share more and more by depositing more and by having a wide enough range. And take a look at this. What I made in fees, although it might not seem much, this was in a very short amount of time, and it's already more than 1% of the position's current worth, even with it being out of range for a substantial amount of time. Let me swap to Crystal to show you that much better. And by the way, Crystal is a free tool, although you will pay a small fraction of whenever you do rebalance, you deposit or withdraw, you will pay a small fraction of those earnings to the protocol, okay? So although it is free, in practice you don't have to subscribe to anything, you will always pay a small amount for the service that they are providing. So the PNL right now it's $3.50, which is pretty much 18% of my initial. You can see here my initial was divided between USDC and CBBTC here. Right now it's 100% CBBTC because these are how mechanics of liquidity pools work. You will always get the underperforming asset. If price goes up, you also get the underperforming asset, which would be USDC. Doesn't matter what pool we're talking about. This is how they work. The initial deposit was 20 back in October 29th. And if Bitcoin price keeps going down, this PNL will keep dropping even more because we are fully exposed to Bitcoin right now. I'm okay with that. And of course, what I could do, I could leave the liquidity sit here, eventually hoping that Bitcoin would go back into range, start yielding some more fees. I could very simply do that. This has been running for at around 2 months. You see, I deposited on October 29th. I would say it's still very decent to get this amount of earnings, very close to 1%, even 1% of my initial in 2 months, which is something traditional finance cannot even come close to. So one thing that I could do, and I did show you on another video, I could take all this liquidity out, take this CBBTC out. I'll link that video at the end of this one so that you can go and check it. But basically what I did was take my liquidity pool's worth of Bitcoin, and then I would come here on Aave. They have plenty of markets here and plenty of blockchains, you see. But I could come here, supply some CBBTC at this APY that automatically would compound into my supplied assets, and then I could borrow against my deposit. I could borrow any of these tokens here. But this time I'm going to do something a bit different. There's pros and cons to both approaches, but what I will do, I will rebalance this and deposit a little bit more. But in this case, actually, I will move the liquidity from this pool on Uniswap v4 because, like we saw already here on DEX Screener, these are all the top pools on base, the highest volume ones. These CBBTC paired with USDC pools are performing better. They will earn me more fees here. And of course, this mostly depends. At some point, you will see Uniswap, the same pool on Uniswap, to be performing much better and higher up here. But on Uniswap, I'm not getting incentives. And here on PancakeSwap, you see these are CBBTC pools on base. We get plenty of them with farming incentives. It's a bit of a trade-off. For example, here you see farm APR 16%, liquidity pool fee APR is 7%, and this one is mostly the same, but usually it tends to be a trade-off. For example, you see this one, really high farm APR, and very, very low LP fee APR. If you're looking for pure yield in fees and earning automatically CBBTC and USDC, these are going to be the best ones, the ones that have higher LP fee APR. But if you're looking just for pure yield and looking to have the highest combined APR, of course go with this one. And then it's just a matter of regularly claim your farm APR, claim your cake tokens, swap them for CBBTC if you want to stack Bitcoin, and that pretty much would be it. But essentially this is why I'm going to move that liquidity from Uniswap to PancakeSwap, because the APRs here are very, very juicy. There's farm incentives and the performance of the pools is really good right now. So the volume to liquidity ratio is doing really good. Even with this CBBTC USDC pool, you see it's pretty much triple. Liquidity 3.6 mil, volume over 10 mil on a weekend. So that's doing really good. And right now, the market is not all that active. So for example, let me go back here to show you another pool on the BNB chain. So you see, this is an active pool and the APR is 5% right now. I know it's a weekend and usually for the most part of the week, this is at above 10%, if not 20. But compared with the APRs right now on base, those are doing much, much better. But like I said, in the long run, don't get too caught up on APRs and on chains. In the long run, what matters is having the exposure to liquidity pools that have Bitcoin paired with a stable on these high volume blockchains, which Base is also one of those. I know there's a lot of volume ongoing on all of this and through any of these pools, so that's my main focus, having exposure to that. So let me show you how you can move liquidity to another pool. This is very basic stuff. As you get more comfortable with yield farming, this is going to be your bread and butter, but I'm going to show you step by step. But before I do that, just a couple notes. We see right now I'm down pretty much 18%, right? So that means if you come back here to the chart, current price 87.9, something like this, right? 18% up would allow us to break even, and that is at around this price range. Let's make it a round number. Let's say 105k. That's because my entry right now is at this value, 105k on average, right? My initial range was at around 125 or 130, something like this on the upside, and on the downside I know that it was 100k. I got into that position at around 112k, something like that. So while the Bitcoin price was going down, my USDC that was deposited below the current range when I opened the pool got automatically sold to buy more Bitcoin. That's how liquidity pools work. And that caused my entry price to be on average at around this 103k, something like that. So in order for me to break even, I would need for the price to go up like that. But now, since I'm going to rebalance, open a new position, I will automatically lower my entry. And to make it in the long run, that's why I came up with this series banking on Bitcoin, we need to DCA, especially on the way down. We want to lower the entry the most. So when it comes to rebalancing, depositing some more when price is lower, I don't even blink. And that's the biggest mistake people do. They come to a liquidity pool, they deposit their whole liquidity in just one go with very narrow ranges because they're chasing yields. But to make it in the long run and to have a solid liquidity pool position with a wide enough range that generates you fees 24/7 for months, if not years to come, you have to have a wide enough position, and especially your entry price must be the lower the better. So right now, that's the time to buy when you see these dips. We're talking about Bitcoin, not a random meme, not a random alt, okay? So I'm going to go rebalance my position, lower my entry, widen the range from this 100k down even further to 80k even, and I probably will also lower this top range to 110, because if I would be deploying larger chunks of capital, like for example $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 worth of liquidity, that would be different. I would have a much wider range, even lower down to 50k, if not more, because my capital would be enough to generate meaningful amounts in fees. And since I'm doing this other strategy approach with smaller chunks on a regular basis, I have to adjust ranges according to that, play a little bit more with tighter ranges, but the end goal is just that: lower the entry, have a wide enough range that we will build over time, while at the same time looking at how markets are doing. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. Open up a new range at around 80k on the downside and 110 on the upside. Now we can do this with a couple different tools. I can do this straight up from Crystal, or I could go on PancakeSwap to do it. I showed you in previous videos how to do it on the exchanges, on PancakeSwap, on Uniswap. In this one, I'm going to show you on Crystal. So the first step is to remove all liquidity. I'm going to do that just now. Click remove liquidity, 100%. And now they're showing me this zap out feature. I don't want zap out because if that would be the case, I could choose any token, USDC, USDBC, Wrapped Ethereum. But if I want to keep my assets as they are and really withdraw my liquidity pool tokens, I would have to go with manual. So I'm going to go ahead, click remove, click sign, confirm, and that's it. Now I will have to go here on hot pools and find that other one on PancakeSwap. So I'm going to choose the exchange here, PancakeSwap v3. We're still looking at base mainnet pools. Let's sort these out by volume to TVL ratio. They are going to show all the tokens we could find if we source through. Let's go with writing here CBBTC, and now it's only showing me liquidity pools that have that token. The fee breakdown shows us there's LP fees and Pancake Farm APR, so that's going to be the one. But let me try to find if there's some infinity ones here that might be performing a little bit better. So there's a couple here. This one is an infinity one. It has a lot of incentives in the shape of cake, and you see while the volume to TVL ratio, it's not crazy, it's pretty much 1-to-1. What makes up for it in this pool is, or are actually, the fees, the PancakeSwap fees incentives, because PancakeSwap wants people to deploy liquidity on this pool, so they're willing to throw in some cake tokens to incentivize people to go there and do just that. If you're looking for pure yield, this is going to be better option. If you're looking for something that allows you to just stack some Bitcoin passively, you'll gotta go with the other options that we saw before, like this one. It has 20% lower overall APR, but you will earn fees automatically. With the other one, you would necessarily need to swap those farm incentives in the shape of cake for CBBTC, for example. Now, in my case, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to provide liquidity to this other pool. I can create a position straight up from here, plus a button create position. They also have zap in feature here. If you want to deposit some other token, which is not the one in the liquidity pool pair, we can do just that with the zap in feature. Now we just have to select a minimum and the maximum range. So I'm going to go swap this to CBBTC because I want to have the price in dollars. I'm going to set up a minimum at 80,000 and the maximum at 110,000. Now I select the Zapping token. I'm going to use that CBBTC that we just withdraw from the other pool. Now I need to approve this, sign in, confirm, transaction created. That was just to give permission for using the tokens. Now it's time to zap in now, confirm zap. This is the transaction that will itself create the pool. Now I can check new position and here we have it. Total value. We locked in a little bit of impermanent loss, but that's okay. We're playing the long-term game and now I still need to deposit some more USDC, and this is what will essentially allow me to lower my entry more effectively. Now if you come back here to PancakeSwap, you'll see that under my positions we already can find that freshly deposited liquidity, USDC CBBTC. Crystal acts as the middleman. It has a different interface, but they are in fact using PancakeSwap and deploying your liquidity in PancakeSwap. If you rather to use Crystal interface, use it. If not, just go with PancakeSwap directly or some other tools. There's others like Matrix Finance, which allows you to do just that. In the future, I'll show you Matrix in more detail in other videos, but I can still come here on PancakeSwap, use this also to add liquidity. So let me add more here as sort of a kill two birds with just one stone. I'm showing you how to work with Crystal and PancakeSwap in just one video. So I'm gonna deposit some USDC now, some $20 worth of it into the pool. The thing is that Crystal is much simpler to use because they have the zapping feature. Sometimes on PancakeSwap they will also have that. For example, this pool has that. I've showed you in past videos, but this one doesn't. It will depend on the pool. Some pools have it, some pools do not have it. When they don't have it, we'll have to go the old school way. We'll have to do some swaps. It takes a little bit longer, but we can still get it done. So if I go here, click add, I already have some 20 USDC here ready to go. But since this pool does not have the zapping feature, I would need still also to deposit some CBBTC. And since that's the case, I'll have to swap some of this for CBBTC. So that means with the $20 total deposit, if I would go with $6 USDC and the remaining in CBBTC, it's pretty much making up $20 overall deposit. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap 14 USDC for CBBTC. I'll get it done straight up here on PancakeSwap, but after that I'll have enough ratio, enough amount of both tokens to just deploy liquidity. So I'm gonna go here, trade swap, open a new tab. I want to leave that tab ready to go back and just deploy liquidity. Here I will select base USDC, and then I want some CBBTC on base. Here it is. So now I'm gonna swap $14 worth of it for CBBTC. Swap, confirm swap. You'll have to submit permits if you never did this before. Sign in, confirm, and now that's done. I can close it, go back to my previous tab. It automatically now recognizes that I have some CBBTC in the wallet, and you can see here I can deposit the whole thing. So I just need to enable this before deposit liquidity, because I never did this before with this wallet, so I need to enable it. Once all the permissions are set, you can see the add plus liquidity button. Sign in, confirm. Okay, transaction created. There's the details here. If I going back here to the farm, you see the position now has been topped with $20 more in liquidity, and overall this is the liquidity value currently. 42% APR, most of it coming from the farm, exactly as expected. APRs will fluctuate and evolve depending on volume, on how markets are. It's always based on past performance, but essentially this is it. We can see from the PancakeSwap dashboard, liquidity is set, it's already working for us, it's active, it's farming. Now it's just a matter of waiting and collect those fees. Now before wrapping up the video, going back here on the X screener, now if the price goes up and increases those 18% that we mentioned, if Bitcoin goes back to 103K, now we will be on profit instead of breaking even, because we just lowered our entry. Since we bought $20 more at roughly 88K market price, our entry substantially lowered. And if Bitcoin price keeps going down, you keep depositing more, you will lower your entry every single time, but eventually it will break even. And the end goal here is to reach that sweet spot, because once it does, everything that comes, not only the fees that you take are already profit, and you can claim them as often as you want, but also you can withdraw small chunks of liquidity above your entry as a profit. Essentially, you're executing a successful trade. So guys, that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I do plenty of content on this. If you want to know more about liquidity pools, I think this is definitely the best way to get started with it, using blue chip assets, using Bitcoin, using the power of DeFi, combined with a long-term mindset. Eventually you will win. And we can attest just that by looking at the Bitcoin chart. In the long term, it only goes up. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you for watching. Take care. Keep exploring crypto, and I'll see you on the next one.